Now we're at the home of Dr. Loren Pickart. In 1973, Dr. Loren Pickart discovered GHK copper peptide, the first and most popular peptide widely used in healthcare and skincare. After that, he established a company called Peptide, and later he successfully took it to NASDAQ. Currently in the USA, over 1,000 peptides have been registered. As a leading peptide manufacturer, we are very happy and we are very honored to be here and introduce Dr. Loren Pickart to people interested in copper peptides. Dr. Pickart, nice to see you again.
Okay.
And thank you for having us.
Sure.
So let's begin. We all know you discovered GHK copper peptide. Thanks to your finding, copper peptide is bringing health and beauty to hundreds of thousands of people. Could you share your story of how you discovered copper peptide?
This was very complicated. I was at the University of Minnesota, and I was studying heart disease at this point. And I was looking at the blood of people that had a heart attack versus people the same age didn't, okay? Or especially young people. And I found something was different, that the young people had more of a certain protein. And it took about 8 years to work through this. And I realized that there was a little protein in what's called albumin, a protein in the body. But a very small part of that was something else. And that is where the GHK came from. This took about 10 years to get through this point. And then finally, I had left the University of Minnesota and gone to San Francisco and working on my PhD in biochemistry. And I was able to isolate the factor from the blood. And I would get blood of medical students, and then I'd get blood of 60-year-old medical professors. And I would compare it. And the young students had a much higher level of this protein. Or it was actually a peptide. I didn't know what it was. And with age, this was declining. And so then I isolated it, and I didn't expect all the effects it came up to have over years, but it surprises me. And the way I isolated, I think, was, a lot of work and a lot of luck. You can't underestimate luck in research, okay?
I could tell during the process of discovering copper peptide, as a young scientist, you must have faced a lot of challenges. So what changes would you make to improve how science in your area is done?
Actually, I don't think I had many setbacks. People didn't like the work at times, but I just ignored them. And there is a thing, I tend to do what I want to do. And in San Francisco, people didn't believe it, that the thing was really working. And they wanted me to work on bile acids. And I thought life was too short to work on garbage. And so we came up to San Francisco. I was already working with University of Washington. And then we set up a company called Peptide, and we made enough money. I didn't have to worry about money to do research, okay? And I would say the main problem in the universities was these old professors. Let the young people do it. The young people have the ideas, because the young people are doing all the real research.
You have mentioned Dr. Chunhao Li many times. Sounds like he's a great friend of yours and supported your discovery.
Li was one of the best scientists ever. He discovered about 20 different hormones and growth factors and stuff like that. And what had happened, I had a peptide. I didn't know anything about peptides. And he had this big research group. I wasn't in his research group. And he told them to help me all the time. And the I would get stuck. I didn't even know what a peptide was, to be honest. And I'd go in and ask them, and they'd tell me what to do. And then probably the high point now was one time he asked me to give a talk to his group, and I gave my talk, and he complimented me and everything. Then he turns around to his scientists and says, "Why don't you guys ever do anything?" No, he's one of my heroes to this day.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear you say that. Actually, Dr. Chonghao Li was born in Guangdong, China, and he was educated in Nanjing University. He came over to the U.S. in 1935, and he became so successful.
See, Chonghao Li totally put me many years ago in a positive thing about Chinese. And if you look at his life, you know, I can't understand it. You leave where you're at, you come over to California, and then you get a little lab, and then you succeed. I mean, the story of him is just amazing, you know. And the maybe that's a bias I have because I met a lot of people like him, but he was just so outstanding.
So I'm originally from China, and I also have background in pharmaceutical science. So I'm very proud of Dr. Chonghao Li. Yeah. And thank you for your friendship toward him. That was not easy for Dr. Chonghao Li because he came over to the US in 1935 during the Great Depression period. Now over 80 years have passed. More and more Chinese people come over to the USA to study and to do research. They are generally young, ambitious, full of curiosity toward new surroundings. So what advice would you have for these people?
Here's the thing. There are a lot of Chinese scientists coming over. Some go back, some stay. I just don't see they fit right in. There are no real problems. I just don't see the problems. Science, what it is, it's not really smart people. It's people that get obsessed over something. They just have a goal and they stick to it. Like they work on something and work their way through. And I'm not just saying this, other people say this too. I think the number one thing is for young people to do what they want to do. If they got a dream, do it. And don't listen to the older people. If you're going to do something, set your own company up and push it along. And don't believe anyone over or 40 or something like that. You know, I mean, just if somebody comes along and says you can't set a company up, you can't do this, well, just go do it. And don't even sit and argue with people like that. I mean, I think one of the nicest things is to have your own little company. You just won't control your world. Well, you're in that already. But that's the main thing. Just have faith in yourself and ignore the negativity of other people.
Yeah, that's a great advice,
right, Shirley?
Especially for these people come over to the U.S. and pursue the life science research and to study. You discovered GHK copper peptide and later become the most famous scientist in copper peptide research. Could you introduce the most important findings after its discovery, especially these breakthroughs, mostly surprise you?
What I think the most significant is the anti-cancer effects. And we just published a paper this year on that, GHK and anti-cancer effects. And Google even sent me a thank you.
Nice.
The nerve effects that's actually being used by physicians. See, a physician in the United States can use any therapy he wants. The FDA cannot stop them. It's written into the law. And like the woman that came in with the neck problem, she came into our office, and she's in bed and everything else. And the amount of GHK that her physician had her husband put in the swollen area of her neck, 21 days of injection, the nerve damage vanished, and she had it never reoccurred. Now there's no drug around like that, and like the anti-cancer stuff is probably very, very strong. It just really surprises me. There are people, research groups, they're finding anti-cancers in animals at about 2 nanograms per milliliter. It's just like next to nothing. It's having these effects. Okay, the most important to me, for many, many years, I had cancer grants from NIH, and I'd worked on cancer, and cancer was really big in my family, and it's what really pushed me into medical research. That was a book I put together. The new book probably should be out in about 2 months, and it's called GHK and DNA, Reducing the Diseases of Human Aging. Okay, and what has happened after the Broad Institute came out with all this data on GHK, they gave me, from the Broad Institute, over 22,000 separate experiments, 22,000, and effects of GHK on different genes and everything. Now there's only about 13,000 active genes, so everything was done about twice. Why work on animals or something else when you can actually look at the human system and see what it's going to do? And out of that, probably the strongest thing that comes out is the anti-cancer effects when you look at all these genes. And what's so good about human data, you're not digging through some exotic animal. Really, it changed a lot of research areas. At this point, people stopped giving me a bad time about the work which they were doing. But I don't really listen to people. I really think, if you think about something yourself, don't listen to other people. Just do what you're going to do. You can ask my wife.
I'll ask Charlene later. A few years after you discovered GHK copper peptide, you established a ProSite, and later took it to NASDAQ. And in 1994, you and Charlene started another business, a famous cosmetic company named Skin Biology.
This was really interesting. Here we're in Bellevue working, and the word got out that we had something for skin. And a lot of women who were struggling with retin-A, it was so irritating, they would start using our products. And I think one time I'd given away 60 sample or creams of GHK, and it was taking the retin-A problem away. And after I gave away about 60, I said, maybe we should start charging for this. And then we did. That's what got it into it. It was the women in Bellevue struggling with retin-A. That they got it going, not me. I mean, when you made something and people come in saying, oh, it solved all my skin problems, you kind of like that. Some scientists do have an ego too.
Dr. Gengli, you and I established the Active Peptide Company in 2014 in Boston. And we have a large manufacturing site back in China called Shandong Jitai Biotech.
Well, all I know is ever since we got things from you, everything has gone well. Well, it's what you wanted to see. You can go to Wall Street and have your billion-dollar company if you want, stock offerings and everything else because they want to fund it, and they're going like that. I don't know. Some of these things has happened in my lifetime. I'm amazed at. But taking companies public is a real good thing to do for your self-esteem.
Yes.
When Active Peptide gets on the New York Stock Exchange. You could
Yes,
do that, you know?
we have that dream. We have that dream. We'll be happy to follow your step. We take you as our role model. Oh, Active Peptide Company is serving some of the most famous customers in the world. They know I'm meeting with you today, so they are very excited and shared a list of technical questions with me, asking for your opinion. Copper peptide is widely used for skin repair, anti-wrinkle, and anti-aging. What concentration of GHK copper peptide do you consider to be effective and optimal for use in cosmetics?
Okay. Then 3% is the highest I go. And I'm just cautious. I don't want to go beyond 3%, okay? And so that is where it's at. Now, like our 3% serum people do like. And some of this comes out of animal experiments from long, long ago. One of the neatest experiments, this was done in a number of different animals. Say you get a pig, you inject them in the thigh with GHK for healing. And if you make a wound in the ear, and the ear heals up systemic through the entire animal. This is done in a lot of animals, and it kind of amazed me. The first time people started telling me, this is when at ProSite, I didn't even believe them. They were getting such fantastic results. You know, in an animal, you inject it here, and it heals things here throughout the entire body. So that was such a surprise for me.
3% GHK VIP Luxury Serum. It's one of your best-selling products.
And these were just numbers that came out of studies, and I really never pushed it out. Women, they pile on this and this and this. Now that came with the cosmetic companies. They would say you have to do this and this and this or nothing works. And I'm not trying to cut down the use of it, but I think it's piling up. Don't pile a bunch of stuff on your skin all the time.
I think that's a very good suggestion to the end users. Your granddaughter Dakota is currently living with you and Charlene. It's very similar to our Chinese tradition of having different generations living in one family. I heard she's taking Chinese language class. So did you influence her on her decision?
No, she did this purely on her own. I'm serious about it. And she does have a little trouble with, you know, the people who grew up speaking Chinese, but she'll fight it through. She's just a tough kid. And she took 1 year, and then she signed up for the next year, so she must be happy.
What do you think about her choice?
I think it's fine, okay? I mean, the world is changing, and there is so much coming out of China. They make everything. The only people really working anymore are all in China. I mean, serious. Everything you buy says made in China, made in China, made in China. Nobody else works on this planet.
Yeah, we Chinese people are very hardworking. Dr. Gengli, you and I have known you for years. We know you grew up from a smart and intelligent religious family. You went to army. You researched biochemistry and set up companies. What do you want people to know you as a person from all of these experiences?
When I was 18 years old, I was drafted into the United States Army. I was in charge of a system that the Army made. It was to control anti-aircraft guns, and the Army had 5 of these systems, and they were at different places, and they were doing a check to see if they're meeting the specifications. So they went through 4 different places, and they all failed the specifications. I'm in charge of this thing, and I knew it wasn't working well, the system. And so what I did is, there was some metal relays, and I knew they would probably oxidize. So I got some real fine sandpaper and would sand them every day. And suddenly the effectiveness just shot to the sky. I think it was Raytheon had it, and boy, were they happy. I mean, I was treated very well, but I decided I wanted to get into medical research, okay? And that was the shift, okay? But some of these things, you know, if you talk about science exotic, sometimes it's just practicality. You just think your way through. There's nothing really exotic about. But when there's this machine to lock on the aircraft, $1 to fix it. Now, if Raytheon had charged them, it would have been $4 million. But with $1, you could fix the whole system. And not, yeah, for their sandpaper. But I really never thought I was smart enough to do stuff like this. But you got to be lucky too. And that's the way it is.
You always make changes wherever you go. That's what a real scientist do. We're close to wrapping up. Is there anything else you want to add?
Oh, that was one of the premieres of China. But I love that thing. I don't care if a cat is white or black as long as it catches mice. That's my attitude.
That's also a lot of Chinese people's attitude. Okay. Thank you very much. That's great. That's great.